In a forgotten village where dust clung to every leaf and hardship was as common as the sun, lived a young girl named Amara, barely 20. Her eyes full of dreams far too large for her world of poverty, sickness and sacrifice. Her mother, Mama Zina, had fallen gravely ill, and every passing day pulled her closer to death. The only clinic in the nearby town had demanded a huge sum for the surgery Mama Zina needed to survive, a sum that could feed Amara's entire village for months. Amara, who had long dropped out of school to sell roasted maize by the roadside, knew she couldn't gather such money in time. She cried herself to sleep each night, praying beneath the stars that fate would offer her a miracle. That miracle came, but in a cruel disguise. One day, a black SUV drove into the village, its wheels kicking up clouds of red dust. Out stepped Chief Adewale, a wealthy landowner and former politician whose crippled son, Chaik, had returned from Europe with a broken body and a heart sealed shut after a tragic accident. Chief Adewale had searched for a kind-hearted girl who would marry Chaik and help him find the will to live again, promising a hefty dowry in return. No village girl dared accept. The rumors about Chaik were dark. He was said to be cruel, bitter, and half-mad with pain. But when Chief Adewale's aide offered Amara 500,000 naira, enough to cover her mother's surgery and medication, she didn't hesitate. She signed the marriage papers with trembling hands and a breaking heart, never once meeting her husband-to-be before the ceremony. On the wedding day, Amara was dressed in a beautiful but borrowed lace gown, her eyes hollow behind her forced smile. The villagers whispered, some admiring her sacrifice, others mocking her fate. Chaik arrived in a wheelchair, silent, eyes hidden behind dark shades, refusing to even acknowledge the bride. Their vows were brief, their hands barely touched, and when the ceremony ended, Amara was taken to Chief Adewale's mansion at the edge of the town, a sprawling compound with long corridors, marble floors, and haunting silence. The first night was colder than any Amara had known. Chaik had locked himself in his wing, and Amara was left to sleep alone in a guest room. Days turned into weeks. She tried to care for him, offering food, singing quietly by his door, watering the flowers in his abandoned garden. But Chaik responded only with silence or sharp, cruel words. "You're just here for money," he once snapped. "Don't pretend to care." Amara cried often but never gave up. She remembered her mother's smile when she returned from the hospital, weak but alive. That smile gave her strength. Gradually, she began leaving notes at Chaik's door, little poems, prayers, even jokes. First they were ignored. But one day, she found a single word written back. "Thanks." Hope flickered. One afternoon, she heard music from Chaik's room, soft piano keys, sad and beautiful. She sat outside listening, her heart aching. "Why do you care?" Chaik's voice surprised her. She turned and saw him watching her, eyes uncovered, vulnerable. "Because someone has to," she whispered. That night, for the first time, they ate dinner together. Their conversations were hesitant but real. Amara learned about the accident that paralyzed him, how his fiancée had left him, how his friends abandoned him, how he no longer saw himself as a man. "They see the chair, not me," he said bitterly. But Amara looked at him differently. With each passing day, laughter returned to the halls. She began wheeling Chaik to the garden, where she planted sunflowers. He even began drawing again, his old passion, and Amara posed for him, blushing as he sketched her. One day, during a storm, Chaik wheeled himself into her room, eyes filled with something deep. "I don't deserve you," he said. "But I think I'm falling in love with you." Amara's heart raced. She reached out, gently cupping his face. "Then let me teach you how to believe again." But just as happiness began to bloom, something unexpected happened, something that would shatter the peace they had found. It began with a letter that would change everything. The letter came in a crisp white envelope, tucked neatly under the fruit basket Amara found at the mansion's main door one morning, a fruit basket she hadn't ordered. As she opened the envelope with cautious fingers, her breath caught in her throat. Inside was a single sheet of paper, the handwriting sharp and elegant. "You think he loves you? Ask him about Adana. Ask him what really happened the night of the accident." No signature. No explanation. Just a shadow cast over the light she and Chaik had begun to build. That evening, Amara sat across from Chaik, her smile slightly faltering, heart pounding with unspoken fear. "Chaik," she said gently, "who is Adana?" His face stiffened, eyes darkening as though struck by a ghost from the past. He looked away, his knuckles tightening around the armrest of his chair. "Where did you hear that name?" he asked, voice low and shaky. "A letter," Amara replied, placing it on the table. "I didn't mean to dig. But I want to know the truth. About everything." Chaik sighed, wheeling himself toward the window, the shadows on his face deeper than ever. After a long silence, he began to speak. "Adana was my fiancée. We were engaged before the accident. She was beautiful, proud, and ambitious. We were driving home from a friend's wedding. I was drunk. She told me to slow down. I didn't listen. We crashed. I survived. In a wheelchair. She didn't even come to the hospital. Just sent a lawyer. Said she couldn't marry a broken man." He paused, his voice breaking. "My father tried to protect me. Said we should sue the press for harassment. But the truth, I was to blame. My carelessness ruined everything." Amara listened, her heart aching for him, but also conflicted. "Why didn't you tell me before?" she asked. "Because I didn't want you to see me the way she did," he whispered. "As a burden." Tears welled in Amara's eyes. She knelt before him, placing her hand over his. "You're not a burden. You're a man who made a mistake and survived. That doesn't make you less. That makes you human." For a moment, silence stretched between them, deep, heavy, filled with wounds and healing all at once. Then, without a word, Chaik leaned forward, and they embraced. For the first time, Amara felt his warmth not just physically, but spiritually, as if their souls had finally met without fear. But the peace didn't last. 2 days later, Chief Adewale stormed into the mansion, face thunderous. "You need to annul this marriage," he roared at Chaik. "The board wants you to resume your seat at the company. You cannot do that while dragging this charity girl with you." Amara stood frozen as the old man spat cruel words. Chaik, however, rose from his wheelchair with trembling legs, something Amara hadn't seen him attempt in months, and shouted, "Enough! This is my wife. She's not charity. She's my reason for living." Chief Adewale, stunned, turned his fury toward Amara. "You bewitched him," he accused. "You're after our wealth." Amara stepped forward, her voice calm but powerful. "I never asked for your money. I only wanted to save my mother. And now I want to save your son, from becoming the cold man you've become." The chief stared at her for a long moment, then walked out, leaving silence in his wake. That night, Chaik held Amara's hands, kissed her forehead and said, "Let's leave all this behind. Let's go build a life somewhere else. Not because we're running, but because we're finally free." Within weeks, they relocated to a quieter town by the coast. Chaik began his physical therapy again, determined to walk on his own someday. Amara opened a small bookshop by the market, filling it with African love stories, poetry, and laughter. Months turned into a year. Chaik slowly began taking steps without support. On their first wedding anniversary, he walked a few feet just to hand Amara a necklace he had crafted himself, its pendant shaped like a sunflower, the flower she once planted to make him smile. "You saved me," he said softly, tears in his eyes. "Not just my body, my soul." Amara embraced him, whispering, "And you taught me that real love doesn't see brokenness, it sees beauty and healing." That night, under the moonlight, they danced slowly on the porch, her head on his chest, his arms around her waist, both broken once, now whole together. In a world that once told them they were mismatched, cursed, or pitiful, they proved love could rise from ashes. Not perfect but powerful, not easy but eternal. And somewhere in the distance, the village that once whispered with pity now sang songs of a love so strong, even pain bowed in its presence.